Okay, so welcome back to our second session. Nicole and Chandra, would you like to go ahead and get started?
Thank you all for being here and taking your time to be with us over lunch for this great conversation. So I'll start off by introducing myself. My name is Chandra Clark. I am the Executive Director for the VHL Alliance, which is a nonprofit organization working to fight the rare genetic cancer von Hippel-Leydig. I'm also the founder of Be Loved, which is a lifestyle brand where I really focus on self-worth and self-esteem coaching and career development. And I am just really excited about this topic. Nicole?
Thank you, Chandra. I'm Nicole Silvey. It's great to see you all again, and I'm so glad to be back with this timely topic. I am the president and founder of Connection Coach KC, where I primarily do executive coaching, but in addition, I do diversity, equity, and inclusion work, primarily around helping not-for-profit boards build their candidacy in diverse ways through the intentional recruitment and retention of communities of color. I also do a variety of workshops and speaking engagements and serve primarily as a consultant, coach, and speaker. So thank you for having me here today.
So as we dive into our topic, one of the reasons why I was really excited to work with Nicole on this discussion series is because we understand now more than ever with all that is going on in our world and society that we really have to self-care. And because our careers take up such a large part of our lives, it's important that we find the right fit and that we are fulfilled. So in our first session last week, we touched on the importance of having a vision for your career journey and the 6-word story, and encouraged every participant to come up with 6 words that describe their vision for their career journey. We also talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs related to the workplace and the importance of having security, safety, and belonging in the work environment. And I'd like just to share a personal testimony here. Nicole and I first became acquainted during our time where I was working for an organization where she was actually my supervisor. And I will always be thankful for the fact that she took me under her wing and became a mentor and eventually a friend, because I was working in an environment that was very tough for me. At the time, I didn't understand that I was a person who really led with emotional intelligence. So I am a very intuitive person. I'm a feeler, and I love to encourage people. And I was in an environment where that wasn't really celebrated, and I was almost seen as a weak person. And I actually had times where I would just need to go and sit in Nicole's office and cry and vent. And it actually took me back to feeling as though I was in middle school. And for those of you who've seen the movie Mean Girls, that was really my workplace experience. However, I was in my mid-30s. Present day, I can say that I'm very thankful for that experience because it has given me a deeper level of empathy, and it's really helped me to serve as a source of support for those who are also in toxic workplace environments and maybe are not even sure how to identify it, or they feel as though it is something that they have done to cause the environment to be toxic. So let's talk about bullying. Bullying is a way to control another person through intimidation and the extortion of power. Next slide, please. So as we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and just self-care and advocacy for ourselves, first, we need to feel safe in our workplace. Secondly, we deserve and we need to belong in our workplace. And third, we need to achieve our potential. So it's not about our title. It's not about the organizational chart. It is about how we fit within our work environment. And it's so important that we feel safe, we belong, and that we're able to achieve our career potential. So when we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, achieving one's potential is something that is so important. So we need the ability to be creative. We need the ability to be innovative and to be free in our workplace environments. We also need that sense of prestige and validation and encouragement, and we need to feel a sense of accomplishment. Next slide, please. Bullying, however, interferes with our ability to move forward. and it's harmful. So as I shared with you briefly, my testimony about the workplace environment, that actually took place about 8 years ago. However, I can tell you that I'm about 90% healed. And there are times that I still feel a sense of post-traumatic stress. And it has taken a lot of work, a lot of soul work, a lot of personal development for me to really unpack those layers and understand what actually happened to me. So as I share my personal story, for those of you who maybe have experienced bullying or you know someone who has, bullying is very harmful inside and outside of the workplace. And bullying causes major stress. It causes anxiety, depression, trauma, high blood pressure, and gastrointestinal issues, and much more. And most importantly, it affects your confidence and your belief to believe that you can have more and achieve more. And I want to say that no job is worth affecting your confidence and your self-esteem. And for those of us who've been in a career rut, we understand that we need to pay our bills. We have to take care of our families. And so sometimes we feel like we just have to function and process through it, but it's not something that we can accept or should accept. So if you're in a position where you're being bullied currently and you're not able just to say, okay, I'm done with this job, it's so important that you start to create a plan and that you can create that safety net for yourself, because this will pass. Nicole.
Thank you. We talk about bullying so much, and I have a feeling that when you saw this description, you could relate to it on some level. All of us in our lives have either witnessed bullying, been a victim of bullying, or potentially been a bully ourselves. So I think it's a topic that resonates. And as I was talking to both Chandra and April prior to this, there's movies that have been crafted around this title. I think of all of our teenage movies, if it's the Plastics or the Outsiders or Cobra Kai, whatever generation you come from, there is this persistent message of bullying, in that you can't sit with us, goes to that middle school sensibility that we all had of wanting to belong, and knowing that these power dynamics lived out in our high schools and our middle school halls, but they persist in our workplaces. But what that's moved to is I have talked about going from the halls of high school to the boardroom. And now we even have the digital world. So we have this online bullying that can occur as well, that is a whole new level of bullying. So how does it show up in our workplaces? Before we even go into this slide, what it looks like is humiliating someone in a meeting, devaluing someone, passing them up for a promotion, sending a hurtful email or a curt email behind the scenes, overlooking someone for a position because you are threatened by their prestige or the experience that they have. Bullying shows up in a variety of ways, and it takes on different shapes and forms. And what bullies do so well, as we've seen, like if it's the mean girls, it wasn't Regina just by herself. If it was those who were against the outsiders, it was a group of people. What bullies tend to do is get alliances and get others to follow them and to persist in the environment. So it plays out in a variety of ways, and all of you as leaders get to also impact and affect the environment that you're in, as well as determine if you're a bystander, how you will handle bullying. And those are some of the areas we're going to get into. But first I want to just start, this slide had some really good quotes, and I really admire Catherine Matisse-Zundolf, the CEO of Civility Partners. She speaks to bullying in such a precise way and had this to say: it really is very damaging, and Chandra spoke to all the ways that it's damaging. It's not just emotional, it comes out physiologically, and also it causes workplace absenteeism. It creates a place where you're just always afraid and you can't be yourself. When you think about authenticity, and that leads to innovation, when you show up as your full self, that is when you're able to be your most creative. When you are worrying about bullying, it's that watch your back, just like that image showed us before with the kick me on your back. You feel like you're a target and you're always trying to duck and dodge those bullies that may be coming your way, or those experiences, that you're not forward thinking about the mission or the work at hand. So she goes on to say, people are angry and confused, and they're concerned about their job all day, every day. It's today the day I'm going to be fired. That's just no way to live. And Chandra mentioned that. So living in constant fear, as I said when I worked with Chandra, I white knuckled it in that job. That even though I was in a leadership role and was well thought of, I didn't know if at any moment the bullying would be directed towards me or how that would play out and how that would affect my role and my ability to persist in the role and earn a living, which is why we so often go to work. So with that constant fear and that anger and confusion, that's when it starts, we internalize that and it comes out in physical ways as the gastrointestinal. Many of you have probably felt this, headaches, an ongoing anxiousness or nervousness, sleepless nights, or that what I call the Sunday dread, when it's Sunday morning and you're already thinking, oh no, I have to go to work tomorrow. It shows up in all those ways and keeps us from living out our full potential. Next slide, please. So there's two different things, workplace bullying and harassment. And I think this is really important. This is one of the most important slides because harassment, as we know, is illegal. And workplace bullying, while there are some overlaps, there's specific differences between the two. So I'm going to read these two definitions. Workplace bullying is repeated, health-harming mistreatment of one or more persons and targets by one or more perpetrators. As I said, it could be one bully or it could be a gang of bullies, as we've seen in a culture. Now, what makes that different from harassment? It's the unwelcome conduct that is based on race, color, religion, sex, which is including pregnancy, national origin, age 40 or older, and age 40 or older, disability or genetic information, which we often term as protected class or protected status. You may have heard in HR resources and information. So the difference, workplace bullying, as painful and traumatic and devastating as it can be, is something that within HR can be addressed, but harassment is something that is illegal. And so we wanted to make note of that because what we're talking about today, bullying and the strategies, is very different than harassment. Harassment is something to report immediately. Not that you wouldn't with bullying, but harassment is at an even higher level and has every reason to be responded to and addressed by those in leadership. Next slide, thank you. So Catherine again says, if you see it, you know it's happening and you do nothing, you don't do anything, you are giving permission to the person to act that way with your silence. So we know what being complicit looks like, and often this term is considered being a bystander. I remember several years ago, maybe about a decade ago, some of the high schools even went to, if there was a fight in the hall and there were witnesses and they were on camera, the witnesses were also held to suspensions if they did not speak up or interfere or try to prevent the action. And you think about that in the workplace. I know if you see a bully, so often our first thought is, I hope not me next. And there's often these feelings we see and we feel bad for the other person, but it's so easy to just turn a blind eye when the effects are not happening to you directly. So this is what's been said in the research. When we allow a bully, which Chandra mentioned is the exertion of power, the bully so often, and we know this from our childhood days, right? That the bully is acting out their own pain, whether they feel belittled. Many of the very things that they're acting out are the feelings that they have. So if they are feeling less than, they're feeling unworthy, they are trying to exert their power on someone else to make them feel that way so that they can elevate their status, right? That plays out in org charts in so many different ways. But what we know about bystanders is that if we do not interfere or interject and call the behavior out, we are complicit in that behavior and we give it life and we give it power to persist and give it additional strength. That is so challenging because I know all of you are thinking about, what about that bully that has a title behind their name and they have the ability to influence or affect my position. There's so much risk involved in that. And then when someone is being bullied, the inclination to go around and get them by themselves and say, I'm so sorry that happened. But when we don't speak out in intentional and bold ways, the behavior persists and creates a toxic culture. And really what we talked about is workplace culture, and that will set that tone. So thank you. Next slide. We've talked a lot of, go right ahead, Chandra, sorry.
So as Nicole mentioned, and I'm really going to defer to her to talk more about this, we talk a lot about self-reflection. And as Nicole mentioned, you know, when you have titles or, you know, someone in a position of power and you feel as though you have to accept their behavior. I've also seen in instances, some of those that are in leadership positions, we don't understand how our personality or our way of management or leadership may affect others. And so this is a really great topic. We talk a lot about the need for self-reflection now more than ever. And it's really important that if you are in a position where you're managing others, you're leading others, you have any type of influence or power, that you really take the time to think about how you communicate with others, how you treat others, and how you set the tone for the workplace environment. And Nicole, I'll defer to you here.
Thank you, Chandra. So are you the bully? It's often easy to identify bullying behaviors in other people and even know what it feels like to be bullied. But what we sometimes turn a blind eye to is that we can go from victim to perpetrator. We've seen this over time. If it's in situations of oppression, that sometimes those who have been oppressed then turn around and become the oppressor. It's a way again to try to level out the power dynamic. And it plays out in a variety of ways. So it's really important for us to do that self-reflection that Chandra has mentioned and to look at how you're conducting yourself. What is the feedback that you're getting? Are you soliciting feedback about your conduct? Do you have ongoing communication conflicts with those that are in your space? Do you have a mass exodus of team members that are in your presence that do not want to work there? Because we say people quit managers, not jobs. Being able to reflect on that and to see your impact of your actions is so crucial. And there's a variety of different checklists and things that you can also do to see if you can get that perspective from, if you're not quite sure, just some guiding questions to help you think through some of the things that I was talking about so that you can rate yourself and then dig deep and say, what's the source of that? Because we know bullying behavior comes from a core belief of being devalued, feeling less than, and sometimes even imposter syndrome.
So now we wanted to take some time to break out into small groups and have some discussion around these two questions. First, have you felt limited in your career growth due to the fear of being the recipient of disapproval or mistreatments of others in the workplace? And second, what do you perceive to be the barriers in addressing and resolving conflict related to workplace bullying? So now we'd like to take this part of our conversation to more of an intimate small group discussion.
Some of the things that came out that people mentioned what bullying looks like, it looks like exclusion, questioning performance needlessly, controlling, having low response to emails, nitpicking, micromanaging. It happens subtly, under the table, behind closed doors. There's this ongoing turmoil. It can look like sabotaging, and that you're not a part of the solution. And again, that it can be contagious. Those were some of the things that came to the surface during our conversation. That's what it looks like, and that's hard to articulate, like Phil said, but we can feel it. It's palpable. We can feel it even if we can't articulate it, and we know what it looks like, and we know that it is in every workspace, and it takes us to extinguish it.
All right, so as we talk about tips on how to deal with the workplace bully, first we want to say speak up early on. I am actually walking through a situation right now where I have a few of my staff members who feel like their voices cannot be heard, and this is a situation that I've actually walked into, so it is not reflective of my leadership, but it's also showing me just how people can really be impacted when they feel like their voice cannot be heard. So from the onset, if you sense that you're dealing with a workplace bully, speak up early on.
And document the abuse and your performance. The most important piece where the and is bolded is your performance. So often we have to speak to our capabilities, our performance maybe in a performance review or maybe taking into question, or as many people mentioned, you start getting that nitpicking and you're on a performance review, being able to archive and document the work that you've done is crucial because it'll negate that. But also document the abuse, and I say look for those allies. So if there's other individuals in the space, especially those that may have power in the space, that can also help you document, and also help you articulate and speak up in a situation. That strength in numbers, if you're in a setting, I think it's really important to have those before meeting conversations with those allies. If something is said, you speak and call it out. And then you also have someone echo that so that you're not standing alone.
And make sure that you take care of yourself outside of work. It's so important that you self-care, self-care, self-care. It is unrealistic for you to assume that if you're in a toxic work environment and you're dealing with workplace bullying, that it will not affect you. It will. So along the lines of allies, please make sure that you have people within your inner circle that can help support you and encourage you as you navigate this process.
And I can't stress enough, do your research and really know the difference between bullying and harassment. Harassment is a whole other ballgame and things that you need to address immediately. And when in doubt, do is one of the times. Usually I say when in doubt, don't. When in doubt, when you think, is this bullying? I'm not sure. If you internally even ask yourself that question, there's something there. So document that and share that with a trusted person within your workspace, and also seek out a mentor and share your experiences to get some guidance. I think knowing what your rights are is very important. There's Title IX, and seeing if there are areas within HR that can also assist you in how to navigate the behavior, how to report it, and also how to mitigate it in the future and make sure that you're not internalizing it.
We also would stress the importance of making sure that you talk to a manager. Now, again, wisdom has to come into play because sometimes you may be in a situation where a manager is a part of the problem. However, if you're documenting your performance and you're taking care of yourself, meaning giving yourself the space to address this topic with the manager, once you're in a clear headspace and you feel like you're able to really articulate and share your point and keep it in a place where you can go back to the documentation and say XYZ, it's so important that you talk to a manager, but also use wisdom in doing so.
And then another tip is to talk to HR, someone in power, which I know everyone knows that. So what keeps us from doing that? I think many of us think, what will happen? And then what? And fear having a target on our backs. So utilizing the research that we talked about and the steps and the allies that we spoke about are going to be crucial, because sometimes the toxic work environment and the bullying has a through line to HR. Sometimes HR is part of the issue and will go back and share the information. So using your best judgment, seeking, sometimes it might even seeking the assistance of an attorney if you need to find out some other guidelines of what you need to do if the issue falls within HR and within power. But being sure to share that it's not just a private or a secret that you're holding, that you're sharing this openly and you're using strong language. Using words that this is bullying and giving specific examples is going to be crucial if you have to take the information further.
And lastly, look for a new job. So this is probably one of my favorite points, because I think that when you're in a situation that you're experiencing bullying and it's toxic, you can feel stuck. It's almost like your body goes into a flight or fright. And it's so important that you create a plan and that you are strategic in your approach. But we highly encourage you that if you're in a situation where you know that you need to find a new job, give yourself permission to do so.
Absolutely. And we know looking for a new job is easier said than done. And so even if possible, if you're in a position of power, affect change. We've seen that happen in Phil's workplace where a toxic environment was turned around, and seek assistance to do that if possible. But Chandra's right, look for a new job, because in our last session we talked about we spend a third of our lives at work, and we spend more time with our colleagues often than we do our own families. And that can drain us, and picking the opportunities that are going to most enhance and fulfill your life is crucial. So if that means looking for a new environment, that would be admired and encouraged.
You know, you just spoke of a time you spend with colleagues, and I've heard it said, and I was just trying to think how I know of this, or at least have heard this, but it goes like this, that you become the sum total of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And let's say those 5 are outside of your immediate family. And I'll give you, for instance, to sort of help put that in perspective. I've heard it said that if you're a guy and you are accustomed to shining your shoes every day, but you go into an environment and those, let's say, co-workers or those 5 people don't shine their shoes. And over time, the thought is that you will then start shining your shoes twice a week. As time moves on, you will start shining your shoes once a week. And eventually you will succumb to that influence of those 5 people, and you won't shine your shoes at all. And so I guess the point I'm trying to make is building on something you said, Nicole, but those internal 5 people within an organization that you are, watch how they are affecting you as well. Are you more of an influence on the group, or is the group more of an influence on you? So anyway, I don't know where that came from, but it seemed appropriate given what you said about others.
Powerful, thank you. Perfectly timed.
Yeah, so again, we just thank you all for taking the time to join our discussion today. This has been one of my favorite discussion series to be a part of and to host with Nicole, who is doing phenomenal work. And I love the way that we can kind of work in tandem and talk about topics that are really meaningful to us. So thank you, April, also just for all of your support in helping us facilitate this conversation. I just want to thank you to all the participants today. Edgar, it's so great to see you. Don, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation in the breakout. Jamie, it's good to see you. Liberty. So we thank you for this time today.
Thank you so much, and we look forward to hopefully seeing you next Wednesday. It was our last session in the 3-part series. Please spread the word. We'd love to continue the conversation. Take care. Thank you.